Welcome to the Grinders Table, the podcast where we sit with C-suite executives and founders who are taking their industry by storm to figure out how you can build an exceptional career and business. Together, we'll try to uncover how they are both defying the odds and what you can learn from their experience. Today's guest co-founded one of Africa's first lending fintech to actually get into Y Combinator. But I think that their breakthrough didn't just come by building in a space that people didn't find comfortable venturing into. I think it came when they decided to become a traditional microfinance bank. I think that their journey from building AI-powered credit systems to embracing regulatory oversight is something that every fintech founder on the continent has to explore, because you cannot build without the regulators behind you, and you cannot scale effectively. But before we go into all that, we're going to dive into Wale's story. Wale, where did this all begin for you? Why lending? Did you think that you end up in this space?
Thank you. I did not see it coming by any shape, size, or form. I think I would just, probably go a bit back, right? I would say that I did not have a banking, background. And I would go back to when, more or less like maybe when I was way, way younger, extremely young. I would say I started the journey a bit early, right, for myself. And, I started by being self-taught in terms of programming. So I had huge curiosity in the area of computer when I first, had the experience of using one. And that curiosity has actually not left me till now. It kept driving me to looking into, why is this not like this, right? So just to question everything. And that actually led me to lending. I would say that I did experience, some difficulty myself in, having access to credit. I did approach a couple of traditional banks way earlier. And I would say that, I got a no. As at that time, back then, you have to be HNI to be able to have access to a form of facility. And the commonest means of facility back then would be a cooperative to a lot of people. But that also relied on, traditional banks, and they have to wait on traditional banks to make decision for each of the members of the cooperative before they could even get access to credit. So it became a huge problem that the product of lending pre-fintech period, right, was all for HNIs or, people that knew their way around banking, but not for the common man on the street. So I did not in any way see myself in lending. I probably saw myself writing programs that, was helping millions of people, but not in the area of lending because I didn't have that finance background in itself.
Talking about programming languages, I'm curious to know, how did that start? I mean, I've run into people that said the first programming they ever did was on a feature phone. What was that? What was that curiosity like? Was it fueled by, would I say, people around you? Was it fueled by, say, your parents who gave you access to a computer, if that was the case? How did that journey start for you?
Okay, well, I think you're taking me way back, but let me just start by. So back then I had one uncle that, of course, I love to read books, a lot of books. So while I was I think I was probably I was in secondary school back then. And this uncle, he bought a book about emails when email first came out, and first became popular in Nigeria, kind of. So he bought a book about it. He wanted to study emails and all of those. And then I was fortunate to see the book back then. And then I was like, oh, wow, can you please lend me the book? He said, okay, let me finish reading, then I'll give it to you, which he was kind enough to actually do back then. I took the book, I read it. I must have read it probably 20, 30 times. And then I was in probably GSS3 that time. I read a lot about it. And then by SS1, I was in school and I was like, okay. I reached out to a couple of my friends back then in school to see if anybody knew how to open an email, because I read so much theoretical part, but nobody was available to, do that. But eventually I went to a cyber cafe. And then, I was able to buy some minutes that I was able to have the experience of a computer for the very first time. And then, it kept that curiosity I said earlier, kept bringing me back to those cyber cafes. Now I started visiting a couple of them, and then I started dabbling myself around Microsoft front page back then. And then, learning HTML as I go. I was able to see a book on HTML. I read the book over and over again. I knew I was sitting on a time sensitive path, and then, I'm buying time to use the computer. So I know that I have to use, my time judiciously. So if I buy 30 minutes, I must have planned and pre-planned what I was going to use the 30 minutes to do in the cyber cafe. And I did that over and over again, and then, I was able to buy 1 hour. A couple of my uncles were able to give me more money, to get better at it. So from 1 hour, I was able to buy, more time. And eventually, my mom, right, was like, I told her I wanted to buy a computer, and then, she saved up and was able to buy me one. I was so happy. I was over the moon when we first got one, and then right there and then I started my journey into, using computers, and then yeah.
You sort of take me back memorially because I remember back in those days where we had to actually go buy minutes at the cyber cafe to use to check emails. And then we had dial-up internet at some point. Man, we've really grown. And now we're talking AI. So in the space of 10, 20,
Yes, right about
30 years, things have changed so, so, so much.
yes.
Life. I wonder what the next 10 years will look like, honestly.
I will wait.
So let's talk about that Y Combinator experience. What was that experience like when you got that email, and what was the whole Y Combinator, experience like for? I'm sure that was probably the first time you went to San Francisco. That was one of the first set of lending fintechs that actually African fintechs that actually got into YC. What was that? Was there pressure to actually perform? Just tell me.
So I would say, it's just like you've been waiting for those emails, right? You know that um, you're anxious, and then you also have it at the back of your mind that it's just another opportunity, right? But you know that everything could change getting that particular email, because around that period, I would say that it's pre period of the boom, right, for fintech. So funding was very scarce, right? And having to get into a prestigious accelerator would be a great thing for us. And we did got the email. I could remember I was in the office that day, and my co-founder just messaged me and said, "Hey, Wale, we just got into YC." My hands were shaking, my voice. I had to call immediately to say, "What?" He said, "Yes, we got into YC." And, right there, we're thinking about how everything would change, right? We're looking at planning, and a lot of emotions came all at once, if you get what I mean. It's something that you didn't know was possible, but you eventually got the email to say it's possible. That, I would say, that excitement is one of those things that actually ran through our minds, and then it changed a lot of things for us. And yes, was there pressure to kind of perform? I would say to some extent. That you're at that period where the first batch after Shola and Flora Wave, I think we're the next batch after them. It was that a mixture of everything to say, we are carrying more or less like everybody on our back, kind of, right? Where we can't afford to fail. Right. So it was a lot of pressure, but YC made it easy, right? Because the people, the advisors, the group partners, they've been there, they've done it, so they know the kind of pressure that you're under. But again, from being from Nigeria and from Africa, is a different type of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, you actually said something, that feeling of you can't afford to fail. And I know that on the entrepreneurial part, and, coming from Africa, again, particularly Nigeria, let me not generalize, where failure some sort of comes with some kind of stigma. Your parents tell you have to be first in class or you have to be best in class because your competitor, well, not your competitor, but your classmate doesn't have two heads. So you have to also excel. Did you ever feel that need or that pressure to not fail? And how did you manage that pressure?
So again, there are a lot of resources at YC, right? That you have to, and then a lot of help, right, all through the journey. So it makes it a bit easier when you talk to people that have gone through something that you're going through, right, or something similar. It's easier, or it makes it better. They are not in your shoes or exact situation, but then something similar. They've seen, hundreds of people go through the same thing. So I would say that speaking to the group partners made it easier, right? And then the whole point is you have to stay alive, right? Because when you're alive, just like we have the saying in Nigeria that when there's life, there's hope, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you have to just stay alive, and you understand that So you have to make sure that you pivot, you iterate as fast as you can, just so you can see the light of a new day as a business. And a lot of other examples of big businesses and companies that we all see today that were at the same point as we were. Stripe was at it at some point where a huge incident happened and they thought they were closing up, right? And the two guys, they got to the office the next day and they were like, "Oh wow, nothing really happened, nothing bad happened." And then, they got right into it and you see where Stripe is today. So they love examples that are there at YC, right? That makes it easier as an entrepreneur and as a founder.
The advice of, stay alive, it's really good advice. I actually give that advice to. But the other day I was writing an article and, one of the things that we know is building a business is hard. Building a
Yes.
startup is harder. Building a startup in Africa is another level of hard,
Yes.
right? And then building something you are not passionate about is even worse.
Yes.
But in the having to survive or to pivot continually just because you have to survive, sometimes you end up building products you're not necessarily passionate about, or it wasn't your original intent. As a founder, how would you approach these? I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on it.
So I would say that the whole point. Okay, so for us, for example, um, we started by giving credit, right, to people that could prove their salaries, right, salary earners. That was what we started with back then. you know, we have we had that caution, or some part of, individuals, right? Just some random person on the street, you're giving credit to them. Why is it that the traditional banks are not doing it, right? So there's so many questions around it, right? And then having done a couple of research, I decided to say, you know what, let's build something for, and then post YC, let's build something for the common man on the street. So we decided to say, okay, let's find out the easiest way to go to market and have MVP. We did build something. The couple of engineers that we went to, I can remember in Ikeja, at our office, I think KFC at that time, and we sat around the table. We planned the entire thing, and then we built the app, the very first version of the app, and then the entire process of you applying and getting access to credit, all within in less than 2 minutes, you already have access. Back then, it was impossible because there was none that was existing at that time that we did that exact stuff. And the journey went on to becoming a passion. When you get the first testimonial coming, I could remember the first one when someone we had never met, we had never seen. Before that time, you have to see somebody, you have to take literally your blood to the bank to get access to loans, right, or credit. And then someone from Niger or somebody from Abuja getting access and being able to get a huge gap or a small gap to pay the school fees of their kids, right? You know that you made that happen, right? You're able to keep a kid in school. And there are so many of those testimonies that became a testament of why we were doing it in the first instance. And that actually became a fuel for us, right? Along the journey, we got to do a lot of things that were cool. We used ML to begin to change things. We constantly challenged ourselves, and it became a huge passion, including the engineers. They all believed in the journey. At first, some of them had doubts, right? But testimonies were coming. People were saying, you know what, this actually helped me. This actually helped my kid. This actually helped my business. And things that we didn't intend it for, customers were beginning to use it for it. Having to drive engineers to say, you know what, we have to keep somebody alive today, right? Through access to credit was a good thing. And we had a lot of validation also, just beyond testimonials of customers. We had validations from partners also, including AWS at that time, because a lot of things, of course, AI has become, back then, it wasn't, you have to write those models, right? It's not about foundation model that we have now and then you can fine tune, but you have to write those models. You have to write the code. You have to draw all of those dirty work. And back then, I think we did something like that because most of the models were not meant for Africans. And we had to make it work for our situation. We had to make it work for our environment. And that actually helped us scale to millions of users, right? Without that critical aspect of being able to prove who you say you are, right? Which was the key passion for us. We were able to, through our passion, achieve so many things in terms of measuring or having to use AI or ML in a way that we never dreamed of. It was one of those things that, furthered our passion beyond, testimonies of customers. It actually pushed us a lot.
And you're a builder, you're a technical guy. You guys like to, build, write code and the likes. And then as you, go to the market, you begin to hear different use cases for your product. And this happens to almost every founder, right? You go to the market thinking, my consumer wants to use my product in a certain way, and all of a sudden, everybody's using it in different ways. How did you learn to prioritize features? Because what then happens is so many people are saying, why don't you add this? Why don't you add that? Why don't you, don't you incorporate this? And all of a sudden, if you're not careful, you end up with a bloated
Yes.
product. How do you choose what features to focus on? And how do you, stay aligned with your own strategic vision as you build?
So again, back to right, I would say that pre-YC, I was just pure engineer, right? Nothing on the business side. But post YC, I would say business was injected. Instead of having a tunnel vision, right? More approach that I take after YC as being the big picture, right? Of course, we were doing, I was actually a customer service I was coding with my team and I was also doing customer service. So we were just, all the engineers were literally customer service agents, at least for the first 500,000 users. So we were getting direct feedback and we had to prioritize. We were looking at the numbers. I had the opportunity of focusing on numbers and the code at the same time. That gave me a huge advantage. So when people bring up features, we have to look at it. How does this affect the bottom line? And because when we keep the bottom line, we are alive, and we have to be profitable also. So having to balance between business and most of these features are the key thing. But we look at what is the biggest pain point of our customers. We know that if we can solve that, they'll keep coming back. It's one of those things that we used to prioritize. What is the biggest pain point? How many customers is this pain point affecting? We filter down, we solve through a lot of data, and we do ask a lot of feedback from customers. In fact, it got to a point that customers were the ones asking us that, can you just quickly add this for us? I know that, if you can do it, I can get 10 other people to join me using this app, right? When you begin to have your customer become literally your product managers, you have to just look at how does this drive revenue, right? It's one of those things that changed forever for me, attending YC and having, a full picture, a big picture of business and, technical side. I was able to balance it at that time. And it's just about looking at the biggest pain point of customers and also having to say how many customers are in that bucket and how does this affect the revenue. There are some features that are good to have, right? They don't affect the revenue, but they reduce the pain point of using the app. Instead of 5-10 clicks or having to do a bad UX, for example, having to eliminate that can improve your LTV of customers, could double. And if you keep at it that, what, I don't think I've hit that critical mass yet, and I don't think I unsolved this yet, you start seeing the churn come up. And then you immediately know these are customers. We're able to tie those customers that have complained about it, and we're able to look at, are they returning? Is another thing that we look at. So we were heavy on data, and we were able to pinpoint who is doing what at every point in time. That gave us a lot of insight into this was the feedback that came from this cohort, and we've implemented it. This has been the impact on the business. That's one of those things that actually helped us a lot to slim down and trim down the features in the app that made it so nimble for a very long time and made people enjoy it because it was so easy to use. I could remember a lot of customer tests that we did on it, and a lot of feedback where we built in a modular way where the app that you have in hand already has 10 features in it, right? But we've just turned on 2. And customers are able to use those 2. And then we're like, okay, let's turn on another one. It's as easy as, flipping a button. And then the customers have a new feature. It's one of those things that actually helped us a lot. So we could have 5 versions on the app already, and we can flip any feature that we want on or off. It's one of those things that really helped us and helped us do a lot of rapid tests. And we were able to get some customers that we rolled the beta version into their hands, and we were able to get a lot of feedback from them, which also made it easier for us. So we do a gradual rollout that, really helped us scale very quickly and also made us very profitable very early enough.
You use a lot of we, and I like that because there is no great company or there's no institution that's built without a we, a group of people working together towards a goal. And in what you build, there's a lot of, ML and AI, and we're going to talk about credit scoring and the likes just after now. But how are you building local capacity for your team while also keeping an eye on the advances in how AI is sort of making some roles redundant. In short, how are you using AI to build a cross-functional team?
So thank you for the question. The biggest thing that I think we did back then was to hire a single person. We have to consider how would this person fit into the team. So we were, how would I say it now? At 500,000 users, we were probably 6 people. For the entire organization or for the entire engineering team, we're just 6 engineering plus customer service, literally everybody apart from the sales guys. So we're just 6 people, building the entire app and managing the entire organization at 500,000 users. We looked at it that a single person, how much work can this person do, right, is the first part. And that actually has helped a lot of people that were the first set of engineers, were the first set of customer service team members and all of those. They've all gone to join, of course, people keep developing, and some are with Goldman Sachs now, some are with Lloyds Bank, some are with, I would say, 80% of the engineers that we built the first version together, 90% of them are with the big companies, the Fortune 500 companies right now. And not just anything, some of them are VPs, some of them are AVP, because of the capacity development that they were able to get, not just coding, but they were able to see the effect that it has on business. So every engineer had an understanding of business. It's a prerequisite for recruitment at that particular time. If you don't have an understanding, the whole point is looking at the willingness of how willing would you be to learn was the key part for us. Now, moving to AI, I think for me personally, it's an enhancer, right? As an engineer, as a customer service agent, no matter what your role is, it's meant to enhance your daily usage or your daily capacity. There are some monotonous work that I don't want to do myself, right? Like I want to deploy something or I want to do something. I just push it to the AI. I, of course, supervised at this point for me, but it makes it easier for me to actually do more things faster. I would say I'm able to get a couple of hours of my day back using AI. And I believe a lot of people should rather see that way than having to see it as something that is about to steal their job away. I think if you're able to use it properly, it will definitely enhance with the good foundation that you have in whatever you do. Because if you are very, very good at what you do and you're a critical thinker, AI would definitely skyrocket or push your work and make it more efficient. But if you have to be laid back and you are not really, very good at what you do, and then you have AI, you become a bit lazy. But if you are a critical thinker, there are ways by which you ask questions. There are ways by which you prompt the AI. There are ways by which you do a lot of things. So I think it depends on who you are and how much of groundedness, how grounded are you in whatever you do is the key thing. I don't think it's something that will take your job away or take anybody's job away if they are really, really good at what they do.
Well, and you said something around it's how you use the AI. Do you think that now, maybe generally actually, the skills that do you think that people will have to refine their skills? So yes, for example, I might be a technical guy, I can code with Python or blah blah blah, but how I code will now be different in the next 10 years because of all the tools that are available to make me more efficient. Do you think that this is what will happen? Instead of, and it is people that know how to use the AI tools better that would then be those that will be highly sought out for.
So I would say yes and no, right? But I think generally it's tending towards that. Interestingly, my friend and I had a conversation in January where we're looking for autonomous agents, right, that could build things for us, right, literally. And my friend is, of course, we went to the same school, we're in the same class, and he's also a founder, fintech founder, edutech and fintech founder. And he was looking at it from perspective of he wants to build LMS, right? Something as simple as that. He wants to build LMS. He's not very technical. He's not even technical at all, right? But he was looking at building LMS. And I told him that in January, what we had at that time wasn't autonomous enough for him to be able to use it. He has to have a good understanding of how LMS works and the architecture, right? Plan it well, and then use it to construct, a prompt for the AI to build a more robust solution for him. And, that was in January. By fast forward to April this year, March, April this year, then I did message them and say, hey, you know what? I think the conversation that we had in January, we have to revisit it. This is just a space of 4 months, and we already have autonomous agents, right? And if you can chain them together, you can achieve anything. And he was like, okay. And then, he tried some of these autonomous agents, and he was able to build a full-fledged LMS with, the database, with everything. Yet he could not write a query of database on the database at all. He could not write any query, he could not query anything, he could not even write a line of code. But he was able to build a working product for himself. And beyond that, he was able to also use AI to handle some technical issues that he would have actually referred to an engineer to fix. He was able to do all of those because he knew, not because he knew the full part of, I'll write the query this way, right? But he was able to achieve his goal. But if I were to be the one, maybe I'm technical to some extent or very technical, and I were to solve the same problem, the kind of solution I will build will definitely be more robust than his to a fair extent. But we are getting to the point where whatever you have to build will be completely robust, irrespective of who you are. And only, I would say, people that know how to use it properly will begin to shine, right? Which is already happening. There are a couple of engineers that I have now that would have taken probably 3, 4, 5 weeks to turn out MVP or back end of a particular solution. Now it takes it. I think he's able to chalk it out in 2 weeks now. A full-fledged solution that he wouldn't have been able to do in 4 weeks, 5 weeks. He's now able to do it in 2 weeks. And he knows what he's looking for. And when I reviewed the code, I couldn't tell the difference between what he had written because the agent has actually studied this pattern of code, as taking all those inputs in, and is able to write like he would have written the code. So that has actually, and I believe that is going to get better, right? And engineers will see some of these tools as a companion, right? A co-pilot of some sort, which can, something that will take you, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you can do it in a day or two, right? I think we're getting to that point. And I think I did read it somewhere that, the world belongs to the people with ideas now with AI. And I do believe that is the case.
There was that case of that engineer that was working with, was it 5, 6 YC companies? With AI tools, helping people be as efficient as possible. How do you see that in terms of managing an engineering team or managing a team generally where people then maybe are more efficient in a way, can do the job, but then their focus is split between various projects or various companies because they can do it and can't get caught. Is that necessarily a bad thing? And in your space, how would you handle a situation like that?
So I think you always know, right? People that work more than one place or, have so many, let me just put that, people that have a lot of things going on, right? You would see the signs, right? Not just even from the engineering perspective, but from business and from having interaction with, this set of people, you would definitely have an understanding of what is really going on, right? There are cases, or there have been cases like that um, in my own instance where I've seen not just engineers alone, customer service team, and so many other people, product managers, and so many other um, individuals where they have 2, 3, 4 jobs, right? And there are key characteristics or things that you would notice that has not been there before, or even you just notice that why is this person like this all the time, right? Like this person is absent-minded all the time, right? That's just one of so many things that you definitely notice about people that are doing that. And that will always impact the quality of their work, right? Always impact the quality of their work. Even with AI, that element of that being absent will always be there, and related stuff will always be there. And these are things that you would normally be able to solve. And another thing is, you have to have the conversation with the engineers. I believe there are a lot of mantra that people follow, hire fast, fire fast, all of these kind of things that people have. But I think, you can genuinely know some of these things, and you can have a conversation with the engineer. And if, if it doesn't work, I think, you can make, or you have to look at the survival of the business on the long term. And that's something that you have to look at. You have to get high performing individuals, and that's one thing that you have to always go after, because it will always drive, the performance of the business all the time.
You talked about how the engineers in your early days have left. You've talked about high performing individuals, and we're in the talent wars, the AI. Maybe let me add AI too, but to be honest, it's a talent war where people are poaching people's best, staff and giving them, millions of dollars and signing on bonus like as if they are footballers, and it's crazy. how then do you manage your workforce to ensure that you're keeping the best hands to yourself as long as you can, but ensuring that there's a steady talent flow towards your organization, that even if somebody leaves, there will be somebody else to actually step up and replace that gap?
Yeah. So one of those things that I think I've seen before has been for us, for example, right, is worked with, people across board, different departments and different that carry out different functions. But the key thing is, what are they getting back beyond just the money that they get, right? What are they getting back? Money is good, all of these things, but what is it that they are looking for in the first place beyond just money? If you can find that out, right, you always keep your talent a little bit longer than they would normally love to stay. It's one of those things that helped us keep a lot of engineers for a very long time. We had a lot of engineers stay with us for a very, very long time, not because of anything, but because their utmost desires are being met. I'll put it that way. So we might not be at that time, we're not paying the most, right? But they were staying because one thing, they were learning and they were getting something back in terms of upping their skills, in terms of they were going through a lot of um, trainees that they were having and all of this kind of stuff. But beyond that, they were able to learn beyond just for engineers, for example, they were able to learn beyond just coding, right? For customer service agents, they were able to do more. Everybody was able to have that feeling of they were involved and also as a manager to understand or as a founder to understand what really drives this person. So long you know what drives the person, it's easier for you to go from there, and it's easier for you to work with that. It's one of those things that has actually helped us keep talents for a very long time, and they're also very appreciative of being able to stay for as long as they could, and it's one of those things that helped us. So in this world, no matter, just like you have a lot of footballers that are also turning down offers, right, because they wanted something. It's the same way this in this area. A lot of footballers, as you know, are not going to Saudi for whatever reason that they've chosen, which would definitely be will not be in terms of finance. I think we can name a couple of them. So long you know what this person wants and this individual really really wants, right, and you're able to meet those needs, they will definitely stay with you for longer.
You've all been listening to Wale Akanbi, CTO of Aella. Wale, we're going to go into our rapid fire section. And basically, it's just I'll ask you some quick questions. You give me some quick answers. Well, it'll be fun. So let's get right into it. If you weren't in fintech, what industry would you have disrupted?
Media.
Media. Now, that's so different from what I would have thought. What is one trend in African fintech that has to stop?
I would say not giving people enough access. I think people just need to have access. I think an extended episode might cover something. It's a whole topic on its own, but giving people enough access, giving customers enough access, giving a lot of people access to financial freedom, to a lot of things that finance has to offer, not holding people back or classing these conversations. I think making things available for common man on the street.
What is one of the best technical decisions you've ever made?
Optimization. Yeah. Having to
Have
optimize
you
a lot of things. Yes.
Okay, have you ever had to fire somebody on the spot?
Yes.
How did that sound? How did that look like?
Yes, because of course, I've had conversations with, different individuals to say, you know what, you have to be better at this, right? You can't just be a mediocre. You can't be at this level. And everybody in the organization knew that this person was not really performing. And, a lot of them were actually wondering why Wale is keeping this person, right? So when they had the person was fired, everybody knew that the person deserved it. So yes.
If there is one person dead or alive too that you'd like to meet today, who would that be?
They say never meet your heroes, right? This is quite, tough. But I would say I would love to meet Elon Musk. Yeah, I think I would like to meet Elon Musk.
All right, that ends our rapid fire section. I was going to ask something around credit scoring, how it looked, in the early days and how it looks right now how well AI tools have become and how you're integrating that.
Right. So when we started, we were basically on algorithm. If this person, meets this criteria, give 5 points. If this person meets this criteria, give 2 points, and all of those. We were definitely doing that, and it really ran well. We were able to, scale, and also we're able to keep, non-performing loans and all of those quite fairly good. But we saw that being, the market and fintech. Fraud is one of the biggest things that you have to fight. So we were beginning to see a lot of funny things. And before that period, I think I did ask one of our engineers that was the data lead at that time, that I was actually playing with some machine learning models, right? Gen AI wasn't a thing back then. And I was playing with some machine learning models that would it be, kind enough to take a look at some of these models? And it did. And, we're able to look at the data we had at that time. We had so much data about an individual. And that gave us an idea of this person is connected to, just like you have LinkedIn, where you have first, second, third connection, right? Was something similar that we had internally, where we had ranked every new customer. We look at within our system, how much of connection does this person have with all our customers that are already our customers? And that gave us a huge understanding of this customer has 500 risk fraudulent other customers within our network. So if you are coming and you already have 500 people that have been proven to be fraudulent within our system or have been, banned for that reason, we know where you would likely be, right? So it's easier for us to transition you from low risk to medium risk to high risk quite easily. So whenever you come, we are able to use ML to do that node distribution, and then we know where you belong to, and then we're able to send you there. I would say that's majorly one thing that really, really kept us afloat and made us different back then. And, it's one of those things that Amazon eventually saw and, was like, oh, you guys are really using ML. And because we're using a lot of Amazon product and ML product at that time, and they were like, oh, wow, you guys are building bank of the future. I think that was credited to the Amazon CTO. And he was like, you guys are building Bank of the Future. That was in 2018 or 2019 or thereabout. And that really, really, helped us. And with as different solutions were getting better, and we're now having AI come into play, is a new thing that I personally am working on right now, where you can solve the trust deficit. Back then in credit, in lending, you have to look beyond just ability to pay. Someone might have enough money to pay up their loans, but they are just not willing to pay. So we developed a couple of models that was able to solve for willingness to pay. So we're measuring beyond this person is able to pay. We're measuring this person is going to be willing to pay even before they take the first loan. So we were able to build models and things around that time that really, really worked well for us. And with very, very minimal capital, we're able to turn a lot of things around, and we're very, very profitable way early. Now, fast forward till now, with the advent of AI, that has actually, scaled things. I would say has changed the landscape of things. Right now, with what I'm currently building, it's something that is solving cross-border trust deficit. That's the point of people trying to send money in the first instance and getting flagged. And a lot of people are trying to solve for it. But the core problem is that trust. We are going from a low trust environment to a high trust environment, and from high trust environment to low trust environment. And we have to solve that. And AI has made it so easy for us to look at not just the financial history, but also the behavioral history of an individual and their connection to different people, and be able to, give the person a score. If you would like to call that, give a person a score can always get better across border. So you know that as you go to this new country, you don't have to start all over again, right? Your score with us definitely goes around wherever you go to, and it makes it easier. It makes you access things the very first day or second day that you arrive in a new country versus having to wait for a year or 18 months before you can access a lot of things. So having to solve for trust deficit across border, AI has actually made that possible. Before, you would have to build a lot of models before you could achieve that. But now it's quite easy for you to, fine-tune models, foundation models, and you can achieve this success quite rapidly.
Wow, you've all been listening to Wale, and this has just been a really, really great conversation. Actually, I'm going to put you on the spot here and ask you for us to record another session another time, because I'd really like to go into your thoughts around financial inclusion and giving people more access, which is tied to what you're working on now. And also, where does blockchain play in all this? 2020, 2021, there was all that noise around enabling financial inclusion using the blockchain, and all of a sudden we've just jumped to AI, and it's like everybody just moves on to the next best thing. It's a conversation I'd like to explore later. So is that a yes or maybe, or I think about it?
I would say it's a yes, because what we are building is an intersection of AI and, blockchain. We've done it for credit, right? For like 5 years. And having worked in both spaces, now it's easier to actually merge both together and give people access. Yes, absolutely. It will be a yes. And it will be a pleasure to come back.
Okay, awesome. So in rounding up, we always round up with one question that we ask to all our guests, and oftentimes we get different answers. So in power, fame, money, and pleasure, which is most important to you and which is least important to you, and why?
Power, fame, pleasure. I would say that I've been a conservative person, right? And then, business actually brought me out of being conservative. Um, I would say none of them really is a huge has each impact or influence on myself, right? But my own willingness to actually help a lot of people is the key theme for me, actually. I would say power is transient, right? Fame is also same. But your core principle of being able to help people, your core principle is what you'll be left with at the end of the day. And that should be your anchor and something that will take you far.
You've ended with food for thought. Thank you so much for speaking with us. This was really, really great, Wale. Have a lovely day.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you. See you on the next one.
Yeah. Bye. This has been the Grinders Table podcast, bringing you unfiltered insights from Africa's most compelling founders and business leaders. If you had found value in today's conversations, here's how you can help us amplify these stories. Take 30 seconds to share this episode with someone in your network who's building, investing, or curious about Africa. You'll be amazed at how many life-changing connections start from a single shared conversation. And if you're feeling generous, a quick rating and review goes a long way. It helps more founders and business leaders discover these powerful insights. Until next week, keep grinding.